19 minutes after 8. This is Kivumbi 2017, and we come back to the panel that we have here this morning. And in case you're joining us now, I'll quickly reintroduce them. We have Dr. Mukhwana, we have Charles, and also we have Javas Bigambo, basically looking at the events that took place yesterday and projecting to what we are looking forward to. And just before we went to our reporters and took the break, we were looking at the olive branch that the president basically extended to Raila Odinga, which is something I think that has been said time and again, that the leaders have to talk. But Javas, is the president extending an olive branch to somebody with a clenched fist, number one? Or two, could it also be that we're trying to resolve without necessarily looking at the intrigues of the two visionaries, if we can call them that, in that they maybe have very different visions for this country?
An oak tree has many branches, so the president should not just extend an olive branch. He should actually have several branches and extend them to the opposition. Now look, time has come inevitably that the political handshake must go beyond the elbow. We must see the touching of the torsos of the two men, because it is in their hands, more than ours, that rests the stability, the political stability of this country.
Is the bigger responsibility on the president?
Yes, because he occupies that central seat of power. And remember that we look up to him as the head of government and state. And that symbol of national unity we spoke about, because the Constitution bestows upon him. And look at it this way. Having served a whole term as president, what greater honor is there than to show that statesmanship? President Kenyatta is a giant, golden giant. Raila Odinga is a golden giant. But there is nothing as bad as having golden giants with clay feet. The moment they refuse to engage and work together for the greater good of this nation, then they become those giants that have clay feet, and we know that never holds. So it is actually very necessary for us to realize that if we must enjoy, moving forward, the fruits of a progressive democracy, it must be up to us as a people to endure the fatigue of supporting this democracy. With the leadership of the president and the leader of opposition, Raila Odinga, the fact that he withdrew from this election does not render him inconsequential. In fact, by way of the turnout in this election and people having heeded his supporters, his call, it has emboldened him, but it has made him even more consequential. People used to say that Raila Odinga has got only one bullet in his gun. But this election has demonstrated that Raila Odinga does not need a gun. Actually, he has got a missile. And that's what we as a people must realize. Look, this cosmetic politics of people throwing words left, right, and center, answering the other with insult upon insult, by way of the growth of our democracy and the blood of our forebears, something that we must not forget, example upon example, Michael, precept upon precept, will continue to demonstrate that this country is in need. In fact, it thirsts for sober leadership than just mere political leadership.
All right, Dr. Mukhwana, it would be simplistic to think that the president would merely just extend his hand and that solves our problem, because this is not a problem that has started today. It has history behind it. We do know that there's a lot of what we call historical injustices that possibly are playing into the narrative that we have today, and also probably putting coals of fire under the ethnic narrative. What is our way forward? Fine, extending that olive branch and that handshake, and maybe even moving on to what Javas is describing as their torsos meeting, as maybe a hug would be a good beginning, but that cannot be the resolve that we're looking for.
Yeah, Michael, you can extend the olive branch. You can do so much, like Javas says, let the torsos meet. But the bottom line is genuine leadership. If there is no genuine leadership in this country, all is baseless. And I say genuine because you've just raised a question that there could be underlying historical injustices. Again, you are spot on. All these problems we see today predate the politics of today. And the best example that I could give is just do a flashback to 2007 how we resolved it, and whether we have actually followed through. The Kriegler Commission. We have simply refused to implement it. And yet all the problems that we are experiencing now were actually identified by Kriegler, and suggestions as to how to go about it were made. They've been trashed. Today, we are cultivating more problems by actually amending the electoral laws, yet we had very progressive laws that were arrived at in a bipartisan manner. My take is that until and unless we come together as one nation, treat each one of the communities in this country with respect and humility, understand that we are having a symbiotic relationship, we are conjoined twins, we will never solve our problem. These things you hear leaders talk about, we will include the rest of the country. Michael, what inclusion? The inclusion they'll do is to go to those areas that are unhappy and choose those leaders who are rejected by the electorate. You actually aggravate the wounds. Today, the gentleman sitting on the very respectable seat of the Speaker of the Senate, one that has to oversee the devolution progress of this country, was actually rejected by the people. So there is a way in which our political leaders just keep messing the whole process of democratization and national reconciliation, which ought to have been their first priority when they went to office. Michael, this thing about numbers must now be removed from our dictionary, because the other name for numbers are tribes.
Tribes.
So when they say numbers matter, take it for granted. They are saying 2 tribes or 3 tribes or 4 tribes matter. We must understand that this country, whether your fathers fought for Uhuru, whether others' fathers were fishing while your fathers were fighting for Uhuru, we are now here in one country. People learn to respect laws. People learn to be governed because they are willing to do so. There comes a time when people think that by virtue of 1 or 2 people being in power and using the advantage of their numerical strength, the rest of the country has no chance. What with the declaration that we will rule you until 2032? Meaning, any younger man or old man in these other communities can forget, because 2032, Javas says is 35, 2032.
Not yet.
So in brief, Michael, it has to go back to genuine leadership.
Okay, Charles, there's also a narrative and a notion that some of our leaders feel they're entitled to those positions, and that probably weighing into what Dr. Mukhwana is saying, that we already have a roadmap and a plan on the political level of the next maybe 20, 30 years, which means what they're telling us is that even the new breed of leaders that are coming up, they have no chance whatsoever. How do we resolve that? Because that will not be resolved by the polls that took place yesterday, whether President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to be sworn in or not. That is not the resolve. But this needs to be removed from the thinking of our political class, that they're entitled to certain positions.
Well, Mike, I think one of the things we need to realize is that the leaders that we have ambitions. That is at base level.
And there's nothing wrong with ambition.
There is nothing wrong with that. But the challenge that we have now is that we need, if we are to cure anything, if indeed that is a problem, then we have to cure the mindset of the voter. How do you cure it? Go back to the basics. Re-engineer the ethnic politics. Just looking at politics in terms of the identity. It's something we said generated a lot of debate here, and we insisted. And we said that tribe is still king. So for as long as tribe is still king in this country, in this nation of Kenya, then we may as well contend with the fact that we are going to be loaded over by those tribal kingpins. The good thing about this particular election of 2017 is that it is going to be the very last time that the dynasties, the 2 dominant dynasties that have fought for political power and while it holding the rest of the country hostage. I am uncomfortable with the idea that so-and-so owns half of the country. that we must accord him. So and so all the rest of the half. It is an uncomfortable thing. But the good thing about it is that this is the last time. Even if one wins, extends up to 2022, going beyond there, then we'll see other new leaders.
Is it really the last time?
No,
Well,
okay, let me just finish.
we'll have that
Okay,
debate. I want
what I'm saying, let me
I
just
want us
finish.
to take a commercial break.
Then
and
allow me
hold
to
that
finish
thought,
before you-
Hold that
Yeah.
thought. Whether this is the last time we're seeing this, or is it just the last time we're seeing it this year, and possibly in another 5 years we are back to where we were. It's 8:30. We're going to take a short commercial break, but we'll be right back.